I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com, and today I'm pretty excited because I have finished my novel Pentecost and I'm just about to send it to the editor, and my final thing to do was to read the book out loud. So today I'm sharing 7 reasons you need to read your book out loud before you send it to anyone. So it took me pretty much all day, starting at 7 in the morning, and I finished up about 9:30 at night. I did take some breaks, obviously, during the day, but I read my whole book out loud in one day and was pretty hoarse by the end of it. But I found some amazing things, and the first one is that I found inconsistencies across the story that I wouldn't have found if I hadn't have read it aloud all in one day. So I picked up things that maybe coffee was here and then it was tea a moment later, and time zones were wrong, and time of day didn't fit quite with the weather or whatever, so there were things that I wouldn't have picked up if I hadn't have done that all in one day. The second thing is that the dialogue is definitely improved by reading aloud, because you're reading this dialogue going, hell, you don't say those things out loud, and you need to rephrase them. So dialogue is really improved by reading it out loud. The next thing would be punctuation, because as you read, you find places where there should be a comma or there should be a full stop, and sentence structure is really important. When you're reading out loud, you realise that this sentence has kind of gone on forever, so you have to shorten it into smaller sentences. And as I'm writing a thriller, short sentences are really important to get sort of fast action. It's actually amazing what your brain will fill in when you're reading it in your head, and that you'll find you missed entire words out, or there was a double word, or things that you just would not have spotted. Even though you've read this document so many times, you didn't actually spot it. So it's really important when reading it out loud to make sure you enunciate every word, and you'll really find some issues. The other thing I found in my writing was I used the same word twice within a few sentences, and sometimes that was a result of me not going back and changing the language properly. But when you read it out loud, you're like, yeah, I just said that, so I need to change that word. And I heavily used a thesaurus throughout my day of reading aloud, because I realised that I had used the same word, so darkness in one sentence and darkness in the next sentence just doesn't read very well. So I changed a lot of those things as well. Reading aloud also helps you get the pace of the story. So again, writing a thriller, I need it to be quite fast paced, and as you're reading, if you're bored, then the reader's going to be bored. So it's really important that you actually read according to the pace of how your story should go. So mine should have been pretty fast paced, and it was. I was quite pleased with that. So I didn't get bored through a whole day. I actually kept reading right to the end. And finally, for me, it was really good to read it out loud, because I'm intending to podcast my novel, and it gave me a sense of how the chapters would chunk down into a podcast or an audiobook, because I love having things in multimedia. So it was really good to see how long that would take. So it's going to be, maybe 16-20 episodes of a podcast of half an hour each, in order to give the whole story. So that was really good kind of practice reading it out loud. Also, one of the things that authors often ask to do at festivals and book groups and things is to read their work out loud. And if you're not confident reading your own work, then I guess you shouldn't really put it out there. So yeah, I really urge you to read through your book before you give it to an editor, before you give it to a first reader. It really has been a really important thing for me to do. So thanks for listening. I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com.